Good morning, gang. Happy Wednesday. As the week rolls on, here we go. All right. Big news that came out yesterday. If you all heard it, if you didn't, I know some people have talked about it on YouTube. It's in the news and everything like that about the Justice Department creating a domestic terrorism unit. Okay. And I want to set the record straight here because some of the stuff that people have sent me has been nothing more than fear porn. Okay. So if you go and actually look at the law, okay, if you will, and you can go read Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Part 1, Chapter 113B, subsection 2331. Okay, and I'm going to link the whitehouse.gov definition of domestic terrorism below so you can read it for yourself. The U.S. government defines terrorism in two ways: international terrorism and domestic terrorism. That's it, okay? Which pretty much covers the whole world. The definitions are exactly the same with the exception of one thing, and I'm going to read this to you, okay? Either one of them. The term international or domestic terrorism means activities that involve acts dangerous to human life that are a violation of criminal laws of the United States or of any state. And then, of course, in the international portion of it, or would be a criminal violation if committed within the jurisdiction of the United States or any state. So obviously, if you're doing something, you blow up the embassy in Beirut, okay, that's would be a crime in the United States. So that's that, okay? Second part, appears to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion, or to affect the conduct of a government by mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping, and this is the catch, occurs primarily within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. That's it, okay? Way too many people are reading into domestic terrorism as in terrorism by a U.S. citizen, and that's not what the definition of the law is, okay? Domestic terrorism is terrorism that happens on U.S. soil. International terrorism is something that happens in every other country in the world, okay, by the definition that the United States has. So don't freak out too much when you see some of this stuff talking about, oh my God, they come up with a domestic terrorism unit. That's fine, okay? All good. Because let's start thinking about some of the things that could be considered domestic terrorism. All right. The Tsarnaev brothers in Boston. Yeah, okay. That was on U.S. soil. Could we talk about the Fort Hood shooter from a few years ago? Yeah, that would be domestic terrorism. Could we talk about Timothy McVeigh and Oklahoma bombing? Yeah, that could be domestic terrorism. Could you say the Parkland shooter or the Sandy Hook shooter? Could those be considered domestic terrorism? Yes. Okay. Now, what I'm not saying here is that, oh, gee, everybody's scot-free, because now they haven't defined, by that definition, what else could they say? And I mean, again, you go into reading on the definition here. Appear to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population. So let me ask you this. Is your employer who's forcing you to do this, who's telling you you're going to be without a job, or I'm going to give you a $100 bonus, is that intimidating or coercing a civilian population? Yup. Okay. So at that point, are you saying that the CEO of every company in the United States is a domestic terrorist because they meet the criteria? Okay. The second part, appear to be intended to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion. Okay, so let me ask you this. Are you now talking about anybody that is against the leadership of government right now? Let's say, for example, Ron DeSantis in Florida, who has a openly obvious beef with Biden over all of this stuff. Okay, are you saying that Ron DeSantis could now be categorized as a domestic terrorist because he's trying to influence the policy by a government? Yeah, I guess so. Okay. To affect the third one, appear to be intended to affect the conduct of government by mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping. Well, we haven't got that far yet, but I don't know. Let's see how we define assassination. Okay, whether it's genocide or not. Bill Gates, maybe? Don't know. But this is the thing. The law is written very, very vaguely. And it is not, at least in my reading of it, and again, I'm not a lawyer, okay? In my reading of it, it's not to call me a domestic terrorist for having this channel, okay? That's not the point, okay? Is it allowed to disagree with the government in the United States? Yes, this isn't China. This isn't North Korea, okay? We are allowed to FJB or LGB around in the United States. That's fine, okay? So when they had hearings today, or yesterday, it was actually kind of interesting because Jill Sanborn, who was the executive assistant director for the FBI's National Security Branch, was on Capitol Hill today, and she got questioned by senators. I'm not sure which committee it was. My guess is I'd say it would be intelligence, but I'm not sure. Okay. So Chuck Grassley, Republican, asked Jill Sanborn if the FBI was investigating domestic terrorism during the 2020 riots in Portland, Seattle, Minneapolis, countless other cities, okay? And Sanborn responded that the Justice Department has opened about 800 cases related to that violence and has committed and has already arrested around 250 people. I don't know about you guys, but I haven't heard about any of those arrests, okay? So I'd love to see those. Those sure haven't been making any of the news media, left, right, alt-right, anything like that any of the BLM or Antifa thugs got arrested over burning down police stations, toppling statues, and, doing all that sort of stuff, some of the video that we all watched that year, okay? So to flip to the other side of the fence, Mazie Hirono, that rocket scientist out of Hawaii there, Democrat, she asked if the department was pursuing terrorism charges against the January 6th people, okay? And Olson responded that the investigations are continuing, but there haven't been any charges because they're still doing the investigation, and that will all depend on the facts related to individual cases. But so here's my question. Why are all those January 6th people still in detention with no charges filed against them? Whatever happened to your right for a speedy trial, or cannot be held without charges, okay? Versus the tens of thousands of people in 2020 who participated in burning down police stations, shooting stuff at cops, sticks, bricks, whatever it would be, and there's been 250 arrests, okay? We all know the Justice Department is highly politicized, okay? And Merrick Garland, who is the Attorney General, is basically over the Justice Department, okay? And he's got a real bitter taste in his mouth because he's not sitting on the Supreme Court, okay? So what you really need to watch with this whole domestic terrorism thing is not necessarily, are you going to be called a domestic terrorist because you watch YouTube videos or because you belong to a church, or you argued, that stupid one that they had where, if you go and argue with the school board, you could be called a domestic terrorist. Okay, that's not going to fly anywhere. It doesn't meet the law. Obviously, the whole point is don't do anything stupid. I wanted to tell you guys this because I know damn well, the normal hell turners and all those guys out there are going to start coming out with all their videos saying, oh, you're a domestic terrorist now because you eat okra, who knows, or, pick something like that, and they're going to blow it out of proportion. I just wanted you guys to hear what it really means, and I wanted to give you the very quick link to whitehouse.gov. I don't think you can get more of a better source than that for the definition of what terrorism is, domestic terrorism is. So you guys can make up your own mind, okay? We talk about this all the time. Don't let the fearmongers get to you. Think about this rationally. Have a good one. Pinball out.